Welcome to Sudeep Audio's channel, Anindya.
Thanks.
We are happy to have you on the channel.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Sonodyne was started by your father,
Right.
Shri Ashok Mukherjee. So if you could tell us a little bit about how you got into the business, because I believe you were in the US earlier, and the company was very well known for the home audio segment. And with the loan that he took in the 70s, and started off at a very small scale, you've grown it to make it a 600 plus employee company today, which I feel is a big achievement. So if you could run us through that journey of yours.
Well, that's what it is. It's a journey. And as you rightly said, it was started by my father in the early 70s. The initial foray was in consumer electronics and home audio, where, as every entrepreneur, you don't actually look at what the market wants, but actually try to utilize your passion to bring forth a range of products that you really believe in, and that's what he did and continues to do. It was very strong brand and continues to be a strong brand in the 70s and 80s and early 90s, and with the entry of large multinationals and with the government policies changing in the 90s, we took a very conscious decision of I wouldn't say limiting, but slightly curtailing our activities on the consumer audio front in India. And we knew we had to do a lot of investments, not only in terms of money, but also in terms of understanding new technologies and becoming more global to compete with the global players. So that's when we started our activities here in SEZ Mumbai, where we started our 100% export-oriented unit, which now exports to 40 nations. And that is what got us through the troubling 90s and allowed us to enter the 21st century with a lot of strength, with a known brand, with access to technology, with access to markets. My role has been primarily as an entrepreneur more than an entrepreneur, because the company already had a lot of inherent strengths. For the last 15 years or so that I have been involved, my job has been primarily in trying to unlock those strengths, because there's a tremendous legacy here. It's one of those brands that today anyone who's involved in audio in any way or is passionate about audio knows about. So I don't know if this is my calling or whatever, but both my wife Sukanya and I are musicians. It's an easy segue for us. We don't look at it as a job. So it comes naturally, and every day that we go to work, we think we're doing music. So the rigors of a business does not pull us down. So I think more than the journey of me personally in the last 15 years, it's been how is it possible for a family-run business to go through various tumultuous, that's even a word, changes and survive in a completely new environment where the basic demand structure of people and the tastes of people have changed. I think that's the interesting part of the story.
It's amazing to know that Sonodyne as a company is actually a completely make in India product company, where you are fighting against international giants who have a lot of kind of money power, and stand up against them and their branding and their spending. How is it that you at Sonodyne are managing to beat those challenges within the country?
I think these challenges are more internal than they're external. Regardless of wherever you are, there's always a bigger shark.
Yeah.
So I think once you internalize the challenges and understand what your core strengths are and work on your core strengths, then the rest of it is irrelevant really. I mean, you can't really do what people with or companies with larger muscle power can do, but then again, they can't do the things that you can do. So you have to understand your strengths and you have to pit those strengths against those of the competition. But the most important thing here is the end user. As long as you are tuned to the needs of the end user, so to speak, then all these things don't matter, because every company or every individual that has passion in the work they do will find a space. Now, whether that space is profitable is a different discussion, But just like that, we didn't worry about these massive companies, which also which do a phenomenal job, but they are restricted by their size. They cannot do the kind of uninhibited, passionate work that we do, because they are run by professional managers whose job it is to run a P&L. Whereas we are still in the situation where we can run a business based on passion, which allows us to, while sticking to the basics of business, to also do things that can be done passionately. So I think we are in a nice space where we don't have to worry so much about the competition. We can focus on the things that we do best. And among those is the fact that we are Make in India. This is a very, very big thing for us. And with the current incentives that the government has given, there is no better time to do this. Just like they said, Sachin Tendulkar is a overnight success, 20 years in the making. So I think our time has come. 45 years of waiting has started to give results.
Excellent. So Anindya, it's actually, we all should be and are proud that we have a company like Sonodyne, which is not just being a leader in the home audio segment, but now making its mark in the studio segment as well. We have a lot of these top engineers and musicians that we have interviewed on our channel also using Sonodyne products, so which is a big thing. Ustad Zakir Hussain is now on board as a brand ambassador for it. So they won't just take up a product just because it's an Indian company. There are many such Indian companies that are around. But I'm sure they've seen something that you guys deliver. And how is it faring internationally as well?
So there's a story behind the Pro Audio, because as you rightly said, I mean, there is no Indian precedence or any Asian precedence in this subject. It doesn't exist. Primarily a Scandinavian or a American or Japanese market leaders are coming from those countries. See, there are a couple of things. In the early 2000s, we finally got digital broadcast. At that point, there was a requirement of hundreds of studio monitors for the FM channels. Of course, there were imported products available, but because of the Sonodyne name, they were the powers that be at that point also wanted to consider an Indian alternative. And that's when we got the opportunity, and we developed a product which surprised us all, internally and externally, which outshone the competition in terms of price and performance. Not that the price was low; it was a substantially priced product, but it was a fair price, primarily because all made in India. And then, because of my background as a musician, having interacted with musicians around the world, I had an inkling that the music production and the music creation, people who are involved in this are homogeneous across the world. I mean, there's no difference between a sound engineer in Bombay and one in New York. Mm-hmm. They all think very similarly. The musicians think similarly. They're passionate people. And then, if we made a product that was good enough for India, I didn't see any reason why it was not good enough for the world. So we showed this product in NAMM, we showed the product in Frankfurt Messe, and it was overwhelming, the response. People, not once was the Indianness questioned, not once was the price questioned, and today we have thousands of users around the world who are using Sonodyne products proudly, and they are using it primarily because it's based on performance. I mean, we did not compromise at all on the precision and the performance, two things that we abide by: precision in the design and manufacturing process, and performance when it comes to the field, be it in terms of dynamics, be it in terms of detailing, be it in terms of frequency response, and also the after sales. So we made sure that we had modular approaches to design, to manufacturing, to making sure that the build was absolutely international quality, and that it performed. But this is not easy to do, because you have to have all the ingredients in place. You have to have the minds that can actually design the product. You have to have the capital available to invest in equipment for precision. And here I must say that the Indian government played a major role in making sure that we had the wherewithal initially available to embark on this journey.
Nice. Something that you just mentioned some time back, that the Indianness was not questioned at these international expos. But unfortunately, we in India have this tendency of questioning things made in India, especially when it comes to electronics. Because we've had a couple of companies, we still have some companies which make very cheap products, and we end up thinking, oh, this also must be another cheap product kind of a thing. How have you approached that kind of thinking?
We have not approached it at all. I mean, people will think what they want to think. As a company, our job is to design, manufacture and market in the most honest way possible, making sure that everybody invested in the company gets a fair return. So if we pull ourselves down with such thinking, we'll never move ahead. So our price is same globally. Our consumer base is the same globally. We offer a fair product, and everybody who has heard it, almost everybody loves it. Primarily because it's made with a lot of love and passion. And anyone who understands sound, anybody who's passionate about sound, hears the product and falls in love with it. We don't try to overmarket it. We don't try to do crazy sales on the price. There's a price, there's a distribution channel. We work with people in the distribution, in the trade, who also care about the work they do. And while all this sounds very idealistic, at the end of the day, if you make a good product and you position it properly, I think anywhere in the world it's a success, because we are not trying to cut any corners. And of course, we will lose out to customers who in India who do not want to buy. But you know what? We have not faced this yet, because if you look at the product, if you hear the product, there's no discussion after that.
It speaks for itself.
It speaks for itself. So we've not, we can only have control over the inputs. We do not have control over the outputs. So if we are loyal to the inputs, the outputs will come. That's the general philosophy we have.
That's a good philosophy to keep.
Hopefully, I don't know.
Right. So leading a company with 600 plus employees is not an easy task.
I must interrupt you. I'm not leading the company. No, you don't have to cut it. We have. I have a role, but my father is very much active in the company, and he reminds me of that every day. And it's perfectly fine, because you see, as an entrepreneur, the ambition and the driving factors of a midnight's child, that is people born at the brink of independence, and the ambition and drive that they have, and us who are midway's children, people born in the 70s, 80s, completely different. But if you can get those two generations to mix and work together, there's tremendous value. So my father drives the company, I drive a certain part of the business, we have other senior members who drive it. So, and all of us are crazy audiophiles. And while that is good, it is also very bad, because we are too involved with the product, we're too involved with the people, too involved in the process. So it continues to be a small family business. And while it has challenges, it has lots of benefits also. Does that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
So at work, do you employ some leadership traits that you have that might benefit some others also?
Surely. I mean, we have inculcated and utilized all the values that the company has had in place for the last 40 plus years. I mean, very, very close to employees, very close to, very tuned into hiring people with technology, with creativity. So, we are very few companies in audio in India that has an R&D lab staffed with over 25 engineers, and with very low attrition rate, because people who do audio, they do audio because they love audio. They don't do it because I'd rather do IT or build a bridge, but hey, I'm stuck in audio. That doesn't happen. They do audio because they love audio. We have 3 factories with over 500 employees, primarily because they've been with us for a long time, and we are building new factories now. And because our business has become, and the manufacturing process has become quite modern and automated now, we have skilled people and automation. So it's quite clear. The organization structure is quite clear, with various business heads who drive the organization. And my father and my role primarily is to grow the business in a very organic fashion.
That brings me to the next question. There will be a lot of people watching this video wanting to work with Sonodyne in Calcutta, Bombay, or different offices you have across the world. So what are the traits you look for in people while recruiting them or selecting them for different jobs?
So there are various divisions within the company, some that require core educational knowledge. That is, people who are involved in production, for example. They must have core knowledge in the matter of production so that they can lead a team. When it comes to marketing and R&D, it's more loose because you need people with creativity. And so our involvement from the top management is primarily in the leadership positions in marketing and R&D because it requires people with knowledge of audio. And this is a very, very difficult subject because very few people have actually knowledge of audio and passion. So we're always looking for people who have passion for audio, who are passionate about creating an Indian brand, and we try to position them in these techno-commercial positions, who become business leaders either in an R&D field or in a marketing field, which are, I think, the two fields that are driving this company, along with, of course, the production backend.
So, would you say that when you recruit somebody in the marketing or sales line, if you, in your head office or other satellite offices, they should also have a passion for music? Do you look at that angle also?
It helps. Because you see, one of the biggest problems we have is training people. If you get somebody who is used to selling a luxury product per se, getting them to understand audio, because you see, most of our pitches, be it to a trade or be it to an end user, is technical. If you're trying to sell either a expensive home theater system or a nightclub system or a big system for a retail organization, you have to know what you're talking about. So yes, we prefer people with some background in music, and off late, I don't know, by default, everyone we're hiring is a musician. So the only problem is the indiscipline that comes while being a musician. So we try to take people who are disciplined musicians so that they can get into a working environment. Otherwise, I'd love to have working musicians, but it's a challenge because very creative people, and coming into office at 9 o'clock and it's a challenge. So we prefer people with a musical background. If our dream employee is a technical or a person with technical or management skills with a musical base, we love these guys. Hard to come by.
So Anindya, you said you're a musician yourself. So what instrument do you play?
Well, musician is a very heavy word. I play some piano. The real musician in our family is my wife Sukanya, who's a singer. But we are all, closet musicians. We play, so we can understand. See, for us as musicians, we understand the subject. We can communicate with other people in the trade, and that itself is the asset. So us being musicians is not as important as us understanding the underlying passion that drives the business. So we are, not just manufacturing a speaker because the input is X and the output is X plus 20. So that's not what drives this. So that is more important. The musician aspect plays more heavily on the subject of us understanding what we do, and the responsibility we have to delivering something that is musical. You have lots of products and lots of brands, but they're not musical. They are speakers and amplifiers, but they're not musical. And it's a very subjective discussion. But being a little bit of musicians ourselves, we understand, and we can, before we talk to the specialists, we at least 90% of the job is done in-house. It's continuously innovating because we take so much inputs today from the people in India primarily. Because what happens in India is that in our music there's a lot of low mid-range, which is not present so much in Western music, which is Western classical music, of course, has lots of it. But the sound of the Indian vocals, the tablas, the drums, and all other, there's tremendous amount of low mid content. That's where all the detail lies. And if you can actually untangle the sound in that low mid, you get tremendous transparency in the lows and the highs. Now this is a trick only few companies have figured out, and it requires hours and hours and hours of listening and redesigning. No computer can do this for you. Any decent speaker looks flat on the computer screen. They look like a flat curve, lovely curves, lovely graphs. But to get a speaker to sound coherent, or to get an amplifier to sound coherent, is not an easy task. Only very few people have been able to do that.
And how do you kind of, in today's times where you travel almost 200 days a year, internationally as well, different time zones and whatnot, how do you manage your work life?
I don't. No, I mean, everything's digital, right? And I'm lucky to have people who give a damn, who care in our company. I don't micromanage. Sorry, I pretend to not micromanage.
Okay.
We have a good MIS system in place. It's not a complex organization. So my job primarily at business development requires me to travel. But that does not mean that any of the processes are compromised. And when I'm required, I'm selectively unavailable. So in general, I'm unavailable. So that's the way the organization works. That's fine.
Right. But in your personal life, what is it that you do that de-stresses you? And
My wife and I are very much into physical fitness, even though it does not show, and music. So that's it. So that's all we do.
any particular musical tastes? Like you listen to Bollywood and stuff?
Listen to everything that has been made with some passion. Unfortunately, a lot of music today has been made on a computer with the VSTs and all that, which is fine. But live, people performing live, people, a lot of hard work goes into this. So I'm not trying to diminish people who are doing this on computers, but the economics of the current scenario results in such things. But we enjoy live music. So whenever we get the chance, wherever we are, we listen to live music. We listen to theater and anything that is live, because that is what we're trying to capture, isn't it? If you can capture that, then that's a difficult task. So we try to and thankfully, I guess we've been blessed with good ears. So trying to relive the live experience through audio equipment is what we do. So anything that is recorded live or something with a little bit more intricacy, a little bit more detail appeals to us more.
It's maybe a way of doing R&D as well in terms of...
It's happening continuously.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually listening to the room more while I'm talking than listening to my voice right now. And I know what I need to fix in this room.
Right. So,
And that was me being nerdy. I actually don't.
That's fine. And it was really nice to have you on the channel. We also wanted to show people the face behind. Of course, like you said, you're a team, and there are many others who are working in different divisions in your company. Your dad being the chief driver. But it's important for us to know that we have Indians making a completely made in India product, which is really superior. It's doing very well in the Americas as well as Europe. And internationally, Sonodyne has also made a name for itself in the studio business. So congratulations to that.
Well, it's a journey, man, and we are not looking for any short returns. There isn't any in this business, so if it happens, it happens. It's happening, and some days will be good, some days will be bad. At the end of the day, if there's music still playing, it's okay.
Thanks so much for your time and input.
Thanks for your time. Thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. And I think that what you are doing is also not very easy. You've also put your heart on a sleeve, and you're doing some very innovative things in the digital space, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you soon.